All right, I got Judson Brandeis on the show today. He's an award-winning urologist and sexual medicine expert, clinical researcher, physician educator, and surgeon. Judson, welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, thanks a lot, Joel. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, super excited to talk to you, man. You're doing some amazing things with this Pelong protocol, which is all about extending and providing girth to the male package, if you will. But I'm always excited to see just like how you got here. And I know you have, over 25 years of experience in robotics and sexual health. But what inspired you to start focusing on male enhancement specifically? Like, what was your background or what shaped you that to you who you are today to create Pelong?
Yeah, so I always like to be kind of on the leading or bleeding edge of things. And so I started doing surgical robotics for prostate cancer in 2002, 5, 6 years before the universities were doing it. We had the second Da Vinci surgical robot in the country. I started doing MRI-guided prostate biopsies really early. I built a kidney stone center. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I became really interested in regenerative urology. So the ability to help men who no longer were able to get normal erections to be able to regenerate those blood vessels and be able to have normal sexual intercourse again. And that led me into the sexual medicine aspect of urology. And then people started showing up in my office that it had these penile augmentation procedures that went bad, whether it was using fillers or fat transfers or surgical procedures. And so basically they started with a normal penis and ended up with a disaster. And so I felt really bad for these guys, and I figured there has to be a way to increase the length, girth, and function of a healthy guy's penis. And that led me to what's called the Pelong study, which then developed into the Pelong protocol. And it's a study that I created. I have a background in research at American Red Cross, at Harvard Medical School, through the Howard Hughes Medical Institute, and then also at UCLA. So I used those research skills to create an IRB, or Institutional Review Board based study that was listed by clinicaltrials.gov, which is the NIH website. I produced a study that I then presented at the Sexual Medicine Society of North America and the International Society of Sexual Medicine, and then finally published in a reviewed journal called Andrology. And that, all that to say that this isn't one of those things like it's a marketing ploy that I can make your penis bigger. No, we actually had 30 patients with real penises, and we actually proved that you can increase the length of a penis about 1 inch, the girth of a penis about 1/2 an inch, and the function of the penis, basically using a combination of a traction device developed at the Mayo Clinic, a suction device developed by Dr. Joel Kaplan, platelet-rich plasma injections, and a supplement called Affirm that I developed, which is a nitric oxide boosting supplement.
Dude, amazing. And I love that you back it all up with data and science and scientific research. So that's really cool. This isn't like just some gimmick. We see so many supplements out there too, just, having whatever, testosterone. I don't know, man. I mean, maca or just, I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm just saying that, there's a lot of scams and fads out there. And then I think there's a lot of good stuff out there like Gainswave and things like that seem to be promising as well.
Yeah, maca's actually really, it's interesting you brought that up, right? Because if you look at the studies on maca, who are they sponsored by? They're sponsored by the government of Peru. And where do we grow maca? Peru. Even things that have studies sometimes are a little bit fraudulent. But in sexual medicine, there's tons of stuff that's just totally fraudulent, totally marketing. And the thing is, if you spend $1,000 on the Penamaster 7000 penis extender, and it doesn't work, are you likely to go to your local UPS store and tell the UPS guy, listen, this penis extender didn't work for me, can you package it up and send it back to Amazon? No. So, the thing is, people are embarrassed. They eat the cost of this stuff that doesn't work. And so really what I wanted to show was that there was a safe and natural way to increase the length, girth, and function of the penis. So you don't have to pay for fillers. You don't have to have surgeries that can disfigure you.
Yeah, and speaking of that, disfigurement, I mean, I don't know, but obviously what are guys doing if they're not doing this, because they don't even know Pelong exists, right? What is like typical, the conventional approach to put like an actual, and I think I remember hearing guys actually putting like something you had to like a claw, like you had a crank, like a like a crank. You would crank your penis up, and I'm like thinking, how did that even get installed, and how does that just? I mean, I can't imagine that. I don't know, being romantic at all. Hold on, babe. Like, wait for me to crank my penis using this like literally a crank. I think is like what it is, like some metallic crank. Anyways, are these kind of the things you're talking about?
I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, there's something called jelqing, which is like a specific way you pull your penis to get increased length. There are suction traction devices. There was a paper about 20 years ago on a device that increased the length of the penis about an inch, but the problem is you had to wear it 8 hours a day for 6 to 9 months. And the thing is, if you have like a normal job, like you can't really be a mailman and walk around with a penis extending device.
I mean, I guess the whole work from home thing in the pandemic, that was a good thing. People,
Yeah, I mean
they could start experimenting
that may have been a boon for penis size.
Yeah, that's the only way I can imagine like someone doing it. You're at a call center or something like that.
Exactly. The other thing is people get fillers placed in their lips and their face. You can use those same fillers in the penis. The problem is, first of all, they're expensive. Second of all, so you're talking about 10 grand for initial implantation, and then they dissolve over time. So every 2-3 years, you got to spend another $2,000-$3,000 to get them re-injected. And if you don't, you end up with this kind of lumpy, bumpy penis.
Dr. Judson, nobody wants a lumpy bumpy.
No one. The other thing is you get kind of a girthy penis, but it doesn't affect the length. So you get what I call a pig in a blanket penis.
Nobody wants a pig in a blanket.
Yeah, pig in a blankets are great at cocktail parties, but they're not good in bed.
Oh my God. Okay, here's something I'm actually curious about because I know you know this industry very well, and I think you were telling me that over 50% of men they desire a larger size. But I'm thinking that guys that are probably coming into your clinic, I don't know, you know more than me. Is it really size and girth that they want? Or is it that they're just having ED issues? And so I'm wondering, is that more predominant, or are men really saying, hey, no, like I can get it up fine, I just need more girth? Obviously, your protocol works for all three, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, a lot of men are interested in penile size. And I'm the last person to tell people you need to have a bigger penis, right? Penis has two functions, urination and procreation. And if you can use it for both of those functions, then it's just absolutely fine. But the thing is, 300,000 women a year get breast implants, right? Not all of them have breast cancer. People want bigger breasts, right? People want bigger penises. And if you want a bigger penis, do something like the Pelong protocol, which is safe. Don't do something like filler or a surgical procedure where you implant a silicone taco or, cut the suspensory ligament, because I've seen those things go bad. And when they go bad, they go really, really bad.
Yeah, and speaking of just breast implants, I know for a lot of women, they've had major issues, especially like mold toxicity and things like that. And 10, 20 years later, they have fibromyalgia, they have all these issues they don't know, and then they get their implants out and they feel a lot better. But even then, when they get it out, it's a big toxic dump, and so a lot of them are still struggling with that. So to your point, yeah, if you can do something that's a lot less invasive and more natural, like that's the way to go anyways.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about the girth and size, and I'm just curious. What have you seen? Why does it even matter? Is it just purely, and again, is it just purely aesthetic? Guys want a bigger just because it's ego. I mean,
I think
there
for
anything
guys
that we know sexually, and I'm thinking of like sexual health or science that says, well, if you're bigger, you have more girth or longer, then the chances of you being able to satisfy your woman or any women is higher. Do we have any science behind that, or is it just simply probably ego?
No, I think for guys, it's mostly ego. And the thing is, guys mostly care about length. When you ask, in these surveys, guys really care about length and women care about girth. So women feel girth more because you stretch the vaginal tissue more, so you stimulate more tissue. Yeah. For length, I don't really get the feeling that women care that much about length, because once you hit the cervix, there's no really else to go.
Yeah.
So, and I think if you're the more you pound the cervix, I don't think it makes it any more comfortable for women. But I think that women care more about girth. The nice thing about the Pelong is that you get both length and girth and function. So, for guys with erectile dysfunction or erectile function issues, you're not filling up the penis you have. So there's no reason to get a bigger penis at that point. This is for guys between the ages of like 20 and 50 or 55 that, for whatever the reason, you want a bigger penis.
Yeah. Talk to me about just, you had mentioned earlier about just like blood vessels and things declining. Why are we seeing that such a big issue for men, that if they can't get it up, we usually hear, and that's where I've heard from the past, like Gainswave and things like that, where they're using like a shockwave kind of treatment to stimulate and like create more blood flow. But why is that such a problem for guys? You know, I'm just 42 years old, and we see right now even 40s, early 40s to getting even older. Why is that such an issue for our male health? Lack of blood flow to the penis.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, well, first of all, the thing to remember is that the penis is the last place in the body. The penis and the toes are the last places in the body to get blood flow, right? And the arteries to the penis are 1 or 2 millimeters. So they're really, really small arteries. And so if you're not generating a lot of blood pressure, then you're not going to get enough blood pressure in the penis to inflate the penis to the point where you trap the blood in the penis by blocking the outflow of blood through veins. Right, so let me explain that a little bit better. The heart pumps, and it goes out through the aorta into the common iliac, through the internal iliac, and then to the penis. So by the time the blood vessels get to that point, they're really, really small. Okay, and blood flows into the penis, and as blood flows into the penis through arteries, which are pressurized blood vessels, you inflate the penis, and the veins that return blood back to the body live on the periphery. So it's kind of like they live between these two layers, almost like an ice cream sandwich. And as the pressure increases, you squish the ice cream sandwich, which closes veins, because veins aren't pressurized. They have thin walls, so they can easily be occluded. And you trap the blood in the penis, and then you keep pumping blood through the arteries into the penis, and that's what gives you a rigid erection, and that's what makes the erection go up from the pointing to the floor position to the pointing to your nose position. And so there's a threshold blood pressure that you have to reach. So think about it this way. You're on the roof of a burning building, and the next building is 6 feet over. If you jump 6 feet, that's a great day. If you jump 5.5 feet, it's a really, really lousy day. And so if you're a penis, if you achieve 100 millimeters of mercury of blood pressure, it's a great night. If you achieve 95 millimeters of mercury, you get a full penis, but you don't get a rigid erection. And that's why it's so important to generate now blood pressure, blood flow. Now, the thing is, we live in a world, and not all of us live up in Idaho where, people have healthy lifestyles. A lot of us live in places where lifestyles aren't quite so healthy. And so people are in sedentary jobs. They drink, they smoke, they eat donuts, they eat hamburgers, they eat foods that clog blood vessels. And so you're not able to generate as much pressure through those blood vessels that you need to maintain rigid erections.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I was just thinking, to your point, well, shouldn't people fix that first? Like, fix your blood pressure issues, fix your poor eating, go out and exercise. But I think we know the answer. A lot of people aren't going to do that, right? But but here's a question then. Because you're doing things with PRP, which PRP you can talk more about for people that doesn't even know about it, but you're injecting this platelet-rich plasma, and you're doing nitric oxide boosters. I'm wondering if you're doing these, just the combination of those two, does that have a systemic effect within the body to some of the points that we're talking about? It looks like downstream, males, they're not taking care of themselves. They're not exercising. They're eating trash food. They're not getting the right amount of sleep. Do some of these things like PRP and nitric oxide boosters have a systemic effect to the body that can actually, I don't want to say heal the body, but also just make it better, make it a better performer?
Yeah, so PRP is more of a local effect, but nitric oxide boosters are a systemic effect. And so, I was introduced to nitric oxide boosters in 1998 when I was at UCLA, and my professor won the Nobel Prize for discovering nitric oxide boosting as a second messenger. And then, in a kind of a strange story, Dr. Ignaro met Dr. Rafer in a freight elevator at UCLA, and that led to the publishing of the paper in the New England Journal of Medicine on the mechanism of action of Viagra. And so PDE5 inhibitors like Viagra and Cialis work through, this maybe get a little too biochemical, but nitric oxide creates something called cyclic GMP. And the more cyclic GMP you have, the more your blood vessels open. So that's why nitric oxide boosters work really, really great for improving brain function, because you improve circulation, improve athletic performance because you improve circulation to muscles, improving erectile function because you're improving blood flow to the penis, or for women, improving blood flow to the clitoris. And actually, I also use it as a blood pressure medication for a lot of my patients. So if you take a high enough dose, you can drop systolic blood pressure naturally about 5 or 10 points. And so it's an amazing supplement which really has no negative side effects.
Yeah, so cool. Talk to us about the Pelong protocol, because we've kind of been talking about it just generally, but talk about your 3-step pronged approach with PRP, nitric oxide, some of the traction devices that you're using, so people can understand that better.
Yeah, so the traction device we use was developed by a friend of mine at the Mayo Clinic. It's called the RestoreX device, and I have a little show and tell. This is actually what it looks like, and the penis goes in through this area and gets trapped in this device, and then you can extend the penis.
Boom.
And so that's 20 minutes twice a day.
For the penis.
Yeah. It's 20 minutes twice a day in that device. And then using a penis pump for 12 minutes morning and night. And so it's still 30, 35 minutes of traction and suction twice a day. So it does involve some work, but it's not 8 to 10 hours a day for 6 to 12 months.
How soon do people see the results, by the way, if they stay consistent?
By about it. So the data shows 2.5% increase in length per month.
Wow.
So, a 2.5% increase really isn't easily measurable in the first couple of months, but usually by about the third or fourth month, guys are really beginning to notice a significant improvement. It's about a 1.5% to 2% increase in girth per month. But the other thing is that PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma, is packed with growth factors, and so that helps your body grow new blood vessels. And so guys also notice an increase in rigidity of erections within the first couple of months.
Yeah, really cool. Talk about PRP for those that don't know it, and just kind of speak to not only what it is and what it does, but also how many injections will the typical client come and do where they start seeing they're doing pretty well.
So PRP is platelet-rich plasma. So the platelets in your body have two functions. One function we all learn in high school biology, which is to stop bleeding. So say you're out in Idaho working on your land and you cut yourself. You start to bleed. The area that's injured sends out what's called inflammatory cytokines, so messages to cells in your body that they need help. And so the platelets recognize this message and hone to that area that's bleeding, and they get there and they become activated, which means they release clotting factors, which then start the clotting process, but they also release growth factors. And so you get a clot, you get a scab, the scab falls off, and that tissue grows back. So the question is, how does your body know to repair that particular area that got injured? And the reason your body knows to repair that area is because platelets release growth factors. And so we can take advantage of the fact that these platelets have growth factors by drawing blood, spinning the blood down. When you spin blood down, the red blood cells have iron, so they go to the bottom, so you can get rid of those. The plasma, which is the water that your body floats your blood in, goes to the top, so you can take off some of the plasma, and then you resuspend the platelets in some of the plasma, and then you can re-inject it. And so this is being used for hair growth, this is used in orthopedics, this is used in dental surgery, and then this is used in urology. So you can use it in the penis, you can use it in the clitoris, and basically it non-specifically accelerates the growth. And so if you're creating traction, which breaks down connective tissue that needs to be rebuilt, and you're using suction, which creates girth, which breaks down tissue that needs to be rebuilt. You can use PRP to accelerate that process.
Really cool. And then how often do you see guys kind of coming in if they're doing a Pelong protocol? Do they just keep coming till they start seeing that girth and seeing those results, or
Right.
do you typically recommend, you should probably do about 6 treatments?
Yeah, so the Pelong study that I published was 6 treatments, right? Because you have to, at the end of the day, you have to call the study at a certain point and publish it and present it, so on and so forth. And so at 6 months, we had a very significant increase in length and girth to the point where it was statistically significant, right? So we want to make sure that it's not just coincidence, but there's some statistical significance. And so we got highly statistically significant improvement in length and girth and function, right? So at 6 months, that was the Pelong protocol. Now, some guys come in at 5 inches and they're like, my goal is 7 inches, right? So they're not stopping at 6 months. They can continue at 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, 10 months, so they'll continue until they achieve their goal. And what we found is that guys that continue will continue to get gains.
Very cool. And then I'm imagining too, a lot of people, there's a lot of biohackers out there like Dave Asprey and Ben Greenfield and some of these guys. They may not necessarily be having issues down there, but they just want to optimize. They're all about performance. You see a lot of that, a lot of people in your client.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is when I looked at the distribution of penis size of the participants in the Pelong study, it wasn't just guys with small penises. It was guys with small penises, medium penises, and larger than average penises. So, that it doesn't really segregate based on penis size. And then we looked at, who's getting better proportional results. The guys with smaller penises actually grew about 20%, and the guys with bigger penises grew about 10%. And so, the results were a little bit different depending on the size of the penis that you came in with, but everyone across the board had significant growth.
Yeah, really cool. Talk about, and then just for the nitric oxide boosters, I'm somewhat familiar with this. I've talked to Dr. Nathan Bryan, who's a nitric oxide expert as well. And, but talk about it. I mean, to me, this is a big revolutionary thing that not many people talk about, NO. And it's kind of critical, like you mentioned, your professor won a Nobel Peace Prize. But then it seems like nobody really did much with it other than like you. Obviously, you're doing stuff with it. Dr. Nathan Bryan's doing stuff with it. But I still don't hear NO talked about enough. I mean, I think everybody should probably be on one of these NO supplements or boosters. What about you?
Anyone over 50 should be. And I think the reason you don't hear about it is you can't make money on it.
Okay. That's
no,
why.
I mean, seriously, like, you hear about Ozempic like every 15 minutes because the company that makes Ozempic is making more money than God. They're basically going to bankrupt Medicare. But nitric oxide has been around, certainly since 1998. It's not something you can patent. It's not like you can patent a watermelon or a beet. And so it really, truly is an absolutely amazing supplement. There's so many supplements out there like maca or honey goatweed that are just kind of totally bogus. But this actually is based on Nobel Prize winning science, and there's just tremendous results. In fact, I just got an abstract accepted to the Sexual Medicine Society of North America, which looks at the use of Affirm, which is a nitric oxide booster that has both nitric oxide pathways, the citrulline-arginine pathway and the nitric oxide pathway, as a way to increase nighttime erections, right? So when you're studying, as a scientist that studies erectile function, it's a really tricky metric, right? Because sometimes things work, sometimes things don't work, but sometimes they don't work because, you pissed off your spouse, or you had a bad day at work, or, you didn't get enough sleep last night. And so it's hard to get really objective measurements. Now, there's a device out there now called the FirmTech, which measures nighttime erections.
I had him on the show.
He's a good guy. So that that is a very
you guys should
scientific.
Based on
we did.
Yeah,
we partnered
amazing.
up on this study.
Yeah,
and so I had patients take 2 Affirm tablets before they went to sleep and then measured nighttime erections using the FirmTech. And what we found is that there was a 30% increase in erectile function when you were asleep.
Wow. That's
And
massive.
so that's pretty massive for, basically a nitric oxide boosting supplement. The really, really cool study that we're doing right now, we're enrolling patients in, is the Confirm 2 study, which, okay, I'm going to throw some biochemistry at you.
Please, I love this
Nitric oxide boosting increases cyclic GMP, which opens up blood vessels, right? It's a very simplistic way of thinking about it. But,
Yep.
okay, PDE5 inhibitors prevent the breakdown of cyclic GMP. So theoretically, there's a synergistic relationship between nitric oxide boosting and PDE5 inhibitors, right? Because one increases cyclic GMP and the other prevents the breakdown of cyclic GMP, right? And so what I did, I was the first guinea pig, is I took 40 milligrams of Viagra before I went to sleep for 2 nights, put the Firmtech on, and then I took 40 milligrams of Viagra and 2 Affirm tablets. And what I found is a very significant increase in erectile function at night.
Wow.
And so we're recruiting now to run the study, because the thing is, high doses of PDE5 inhibitors like Viagra and Cialis can give you a headache, they can give you facial flushing, they can give you reflux, they can give you muscular aches, they can give you a stuffed nose. And so a lot of men can't take the higher doses that they need to improve erectile function. And so if we can show that there's a synergistic relationship between a nitric oxide booster like Affirm, which there are really hardly any side effects from that medication or that supplement, and a PDE5 inhibitor, then men don't have to use those higher doses. They can supplement with a nitric oxide booster like Affirm and get the same beneficial effects.
Yeah, that's really cool, man. What about and it's that episode that I did with the founder of Firmtech? We were talking about if men are not having, I believe, 5 to 8 nocturnal erections in
Here,
the
I'll show you. I
at
can show
night.
you my data. It's actually pretty interesting. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right, so that's with 40 milligrams of Viagra. And each of those peaks are erections. So I had an erection at 4 o'clock, an erection at 6 o'clock, right? Then I doubled up, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 erections the first night. And then the second night, you can see, 1, 2, 3 really good, strong erections. So the area under the curve per hour of sleep increased dramatically by taking a nitric oxide booster like Affirm.
Yeah, and one of the big things, if men are not getting that, there's usually a high correlation, right, to heart disease, some kind of cardiovascular issue. I'm wondering, of course, we're kind of hacking this by taking it in the evening, right? But I'm wondering if you continue to do something like this in the evening, regardless, just because you're getting the erections, I could care less. I'm thinking about long-term health. I wonder what that would do for some of these cardiovascular root cause issues that people are facing and how that would affect them long-term.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I take 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
For me, that's the right dose. As you get older, I'm 57. Taking 2 twice a day really is the right dose for me, and it protects what's called the endothelium. So, the blood vessels have a 1-cell thick lining called the endothelium, and then the endothelium has kind of what's called a glycocalyx, which is like a shag carpet made of sugar, and that protects those endothelial cells. And so when you do things like eat a bad meal or smoke or even have COVID, it can destroy that glycocalyx and affect the endothelium. And when that endothelium gets affected, you generate little blood clots in blood vessels. And so that's how COVID caused a lot of damage, and that's how smoking and eating high cholesterol foods can cause damage to blood vessels. And that microvascular damage, so damage to little blood vessels, can affect things, especially like erectile function. Because remember, the artery going to the penis is only 1 or 2 millimeters, and then those little branch arteries that come off that 1 or 2 millimeter artery are even smaller. And so microvascular damage can be especially devastating to erectile function.
Can a supplement like Affirm help with that? The glyco, what was the damage? What was
Glycocalyx.
glycocalyx? Can it help with that, or help restore some of the
Yeah, I mean,
endothelial
what
function?
it helps do is it helps those blood vessels dilate, helps those blood vessels open up. And when those blood vessels are open, then blood flows through those blood vessels much more easily.
Okay, got it. And then also with NO, I remember Dr. Brian talking about a lot of NO, and I think he had told me, he goes, yeah, a lot of like people, the top 5 ways to increase, nitric oxide or boost your erection. If you go to any website, right, I'm sure I could type it in Google right now, I'm going to see L-citrulline and L-arginine. But I remember him telling me like those aren't, they don't do as much as you would think. Like, is that true, or have you seen that from your studies, or what do you do to make sure that the NO in Affirm is like, and I know it's backed by research based on everything you're telling me, but like how do you ensure? What do you think about that, or how does Affirm change the game on that?
Well, it's 50-50. So you get half of your nitric oxide from the citrulline-arginine cycle. But the thing is, this may be a little technical, but citrulline is much better absorbed in your body than arginine is. And when the intestines absorb citrulline and put it into the bloodstream, then the kidneys actually convert citrulline into arginine. And then at the level of blood vessels, arginine is combined with oxygen and kicks out a nitric oxide and then gets recycled back to citrulline. So it's a citrulline-arginine cycle.
Nice.
And that gives you 50% of your nitric oxide. And then the other part comes from nitrates. And nitrates are in foods like beets and heavy green leafy vegetables. And then nitrates are converted into nitrites in the mouth with an enzyme in saliva. That's why if you take a stringent mouthwash that kills those bacteria, your blood pressure goes up and your nitric oxide levels go down. And then in the stomach acid converts nitrites to nitric oxide, and that's why if you take a strong antacid or proton pump inhibitor like Prilosec or omeprazole, that can affect your blood pressure and the production of nitric oxide as well. So Dr. Bryan's right. The arginine citrulline is not the whole story. It's only half the story, and the nitric oxide is the other half of the story. And so that's the nice thing about Affirm is it has both citrulline and beet extract in there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't wait. I'm gonna try some. I'm gonna go on Amazon. I'm looking right now at Affirm.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
looks
just
great.
shoot me your an email with your address. The other thing is I'll send you a copy of my book, The 21st Century Man. So I wrote that book about 2 years ago. It's the most comprehensive and medically accurate men's health book ever written. So it's over 900 pages. It's 101 chapters, and it focuses on every aspect of men's health.
Okay, I love men's health. Okay, now we're taking a detour, if you don't mind. Talk to me about this. What compelled you to write this? I think what a great title, and I think there needs to be. I love the title because it's like a guidebook. Like, hey, here's everything. I'm sure you went through everything: fitness, mental health, physical health, all these things. So talk to me about this. Yeah.
The thing is, it started out. So COVID hit. I had to close my office for 3 months. I'm not one of those people that likes sitting around playing, pickup sticks. And so
you weren't playing Pokemon Go.
No, I wasn't playing Pokemon Go. And so I started writing this little book on sexual health, sexual medicine. But what I found was there are so many things that affect sexual health, not just physical health, but mental health, addictions, lifestyle, aesthetics, even health insurance. And so I just kept, and I'm not an expert on all these things, so I just kept calling up friends who are experts in these things. And so we ended up with 60 co-contributors, sleep. There's a chapter on yoga. There's a chapter on meditation. There's a chapter on menopause. Yeah, there's just, like, you name it, there's a chapter on that written by an expert. And then I write in a way that's that a lot of men like, which is highly information dense. Like, I can't stand reading a 300-page book and at the end going, there was about 4 pages of information in that book.
Yeah.
This is a 900-page book with 900 pages of information. but it's also not meant to be read cover to cover, right? So there's a world expert on hair replacement, right? But you don't need to read that chapter. I need to read that chapter, but you don't need to read that chapter. So it's a book that serves as a reference guide for men, written by a guy who kind of gets it. And you know, the cool thing is I see your Tim Ferriss books right behind you.
Yeah, good eye. You spotted that.
I love those books, and I love the way that they handle, and I love the font. I love the way that they're, and so my book copied the font and the layout and every aspect of the physical manifestation of those Tim Ferriss books.
I love that. I remember when Tim came out with that, he said, yeah, you know, if you don't like it, you can always use it as a kettlebell because it's like so thick and dense. You know, you can always just use it as a weight and like lift it and do some kettlebell.
You know, I mean, that's the really stupid thing about writing a 900-page book is that they're 4 pounds.
Yeah.
And so when I go to a meeting and I want to bring some of my books, I can only bring like 3 or 4 books before I go over the 50-pound limit on the luggage.
You got to come with a pocket-sized version.
Exactly.
No, that's really cool. I love the idea of just the various experts and a lot of the data and just what you've been sharing with me. You kept apologizing for sharing data, but I love the biochemistry because that's where I'm like, wow, I want to learn more. I didn't know about the cycles that you were talking about that it blocks, and like that's the first time I ever heard that. So I think a lot of men in general too, and you know this, they want to see the data, right? And if they don't see the data when they're talking to you about like the results you were showing, if they don't see that data, they kind of don't believe it. And so I know a lot of men are that way and they want to actually see it. And so having the experts show the data, show the information, very helpful. And I can just cruise 1 page a day. I could probably, I'm not 1 page, 1 chapter a day, or I can just go and like pick and choose. Like you said, what chapter benefits me the most at this time of my life?
Yeah, you know, I totally agree with you. Men are motivated by numbers. And one of the best pieces of equipment I ever bought for my office was an in-body body composition scan. And I run guys through that, and it gives you amazing information, not just percentage body fat, but it gives you norms on muscular development, left arm, right arm, trunk, left leg, right leg. And so I can sit down with guys and say, listen, you know, you got 30 pounds to lose, and your legs are weak. And they look at me like, how do you know that? I'm like, the information's all right here. And it's very, very motivating. You see, you know, guys come back in 3-4 months and they're like, you know, I've been working out every day at the gym, Dr. Brandeis, and I've been eating better, and I want to see how I'm doing on your body composition scan.
Yeah, test don't guess, right?
Exactly. You know, like otherwise guys just look at themselves in the mirror, they puff up their chest, and they think that they look like they did when they were 25.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have a I just read this book called Mistakes Were Made, but not by me, in parentheses, but not by me. So it talks all about the self-justification brain and our confirmation bias. And that's why what you just said is you'll see guys, right? You'll see them at their high school reunion and they'll be telling you how much they've changed. But you're like, no, Billy, you're the same old Billy. Like you haven't changed at all. You're still overweight, out of shape. What are you talking about? So, yeah. Man, that's exciting. And I got to tell Dr. Brian, he's going to have to drop his prices on his NO. Yours is a lot more affordable. So, whoops, don't tell Dr. Brian I said that.
Yeah, no, actually, I worked it out one time. Per milligram of active ingredient, Affirm is 1/10 the price of Neo 40.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's like 180 a bottle or something. So yeah, it's a lot more. I could buy like a two and a half, I think.
Yeah,
bottles.
Affirm is basically 50 cents a tablet, but there's 895 milligrams of active ingredient in each tablet. So,
yeah, no, that's good stuff. Talk to me about just any exciting projects you have coming on. I mean, you know, you're writing books, you're changing the world of sexual health. What else do you have going on?
Yeah, I mean, that Confirm 2 study is a really, really exciting study because it's going to show that there's a synergistic relationship between Affirm, nitric oxide boosting, and PDE5 inhibitors. So if you want to get an extra boost out of your Viagra or Levitra or Cialis. And the other thing is, a lot of guys will come and they'll say, you know, Viagra worked really, really well in the beginning, but now it's not working so well. Am I getting tolerant to the effects of Viagra? And for me, it's not a tolerance. It's the fact that you're not making as much cyclic GMP because your nitric oxide levels go down. And so at a certain age, you could take a truckload of Viagra. It's not going to work for you. You need the nitric oxide boosting to create the cyclic GMP that then that the PDE5 inhibitors like Viagra and Cialis prevent the breakdown of those. Here, I'll show you. Here's from that same article. You see nitric oxide makes cGMP and PDE5 prevents the breakdown of cyclic GMP. So cyclic GMP levels are really the key to opening up those blood vessels. And so that's the exciting project. The other exciting project I'm working on is I had a research meeting this morning on a technology that I'm help pioneering called morphometrics, which is a microvascular ultrasound. So a way to look at the vascularity of the penis. And we're going to use it as a way to predict people's response to regenerative treatments, right? So there are a percentage of guys who either have diabetes or prostate cancer surgery that doesn't really matter what you do for them, they're not going to respond. So why get this guy's hopes up, and why have him spend $3,000 to $5,000 on Gainswave or some other shockwave therapy if it's not going to work? And then, on the flip side, we can do microvascular ultrasound and look at a guy's penis and say, listen, you are going to have a good response to treatment, and this is the best treatment protocol for you. You should take a nitric oxide booster like Affirm. You should take a PDE5 inhibitor. You should use shockwave therapy. You can do PRP. You can do, we have a whole host of regenerative treatments now for erectile dysfunction. And so that's another really exciting. We're partnering with a group at Baylor School of Medicine to look into the morphometrics for regenerative medicine.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And then again, it gets back to like test, don't guess. You don't have to do any guesswork, and guys can come in with a lot of confidence. When they know that they're going to get the results, I think that just subconsciously also makes them more interested in doing the work too and being all behind it. So that's going to be really, really nice. Exactly. And I think with FirmTech, you could even use some of that too to show like, hey, is what we're doing working, right? You get that biofeedback.
Exactly. We're going to rope in FirmTech as another way of objectively measuring erectile function, because up until now, we really don't have many objective ways. We have subjective ways, which is, like, how are you doing? But like I had this one guy the other day, he's like, oh, doc, $100 down the drain. I'm like, what do you mean, Joe? He's like, well, I took the wife out to a nice dinner. I got a really good bottle of wine. I loaded up on Viagra. And then I said one stupid ass thing, and it was $100 down the drain.
Yeah, he screwed up there.
Right. So, I mean, with measuring erectile dysfunction, you have to deal with those kind of issues. Whereas if you have a purely objective measure like nighttime erectile function or microvascular growth of blood vessels, it's a better way to assess a responsive treatment.
Yeah, that's good. I remember talking to the founder of FirmTech, and he's in his 70s, so it's a little bit different. But he was saying, and I've heard a lot of anti-aging longevity folks saying that they're taking Viagra or what's the other one? Cialis.
Yeah.
They're taking it prophylactically. They're taking it just because, like for anti-aging. And I'm just wondering, the combination I never thought of with what you're talking about, based on what it does. Would that be something that people could quote unquote microdose maybe Cialis or something like that
absolutely.
Just in general, like as a regular.
Half of my patients I put on 5 milligrams of generic Cialis before they go to sleep, because remember, nighttime erections are the key to daytime erections.
Interesting.
Right, because a lot of us have jobs where we're not getting erections during the day, and then a lot of us are married for more than 10, 15, 20 years, and so you're not having sex every night. And so how does your penis stay healthy? The way it stays healthy, meaning the way the elastic tissue of the penis stays stretched, and the way that the penis gets oxygenated with blood and nutrients, is by getting nighttime erections. And you can see from my studies, I'm getting 30 to 60 to 90 minutes of erections every night.
Yeah. Wow, I didn't think about that. Okay, yeah. So keeping the penis healthy, like that could be just a good protocol. Taking Affirm with like a 5 milligram dose of, I guess, Cialis or Viagra, right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
and just on a regular basis.
On
Like
a
that-
regular basis.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Especially, when you're hitting your 50s or 60s or 70s and you're not getting those nighttime erections anymore, it's a really super important thing to do.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Love that. Love that. That's really cool. And then speaking of just rituals or habits, you look like a super fit guy, and this is your world. And obviously, you got the 21st century man, so you live it, breathe it, and walk it. What are some habits and rituals and practices that you do on a regular basis?
Yeah, so I'll give you my top 10 in 10 seconds. So a way to increase your health better than about 95% of men in 10 seconds. Don't drink alcohol, don't smoke, don't do drugs, don't overeat, exercise every day, stretch every morning, do yoga, meditate, get good sleep, and be nice to other people.
Boom. Dumb. Drop the mic. That's it. That's all you got to do, guys. It's simple. Keep it
Yeah,
simple.
simple. I mean, it's not simple to do those simple things, but it is simple to. The thing is, I have people that fly in from all over the place to ask me all sorts of questions about peptides and advanced, concepts in health and longevity. And I look at them, I'm like, dude, just lose 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Stop eating so much sugar. Stop drinking alcohol. And they look at me like, well, what about BP 157? What about alpha 1 antitrypsin? I'm like, do you really want to spend all this money and put this kind of stuff in your body when there's just like, look in the mirror, there's just some glaring stuff that you need to do first? Like I take care of the 0 to 99% people, and then I have the top 1% of people that I have, technologies like M-Sculpt and M-Cella and those kind of things that I can do for them. But for most of us, it's just doing the basics.
Yeah, agreed. I heard Peter Attia, somebody interviewed him the other day, and they were talking about why do men have testosterone? Why is it plummeted the lowest it has in years? And he's like, well, I could tell you that it's because of plastics and parabens, which is like what everyone's talking about. He's like, but I would probably not say that. He said I would probably gauge that they just need to lose some weight. Like that's probably the biggest problem, and that's
it's actually more than that. I mean, it's people that sit on their ass all day.
Right.
Right. I mean, the thing is, like, if you're a hunter and you're hunting buffalo on the plains every day, you need super high levels of testosterone, right? Because buffalo don't like getting killed. If you're a farmer and you're waking up every morning to feed the cows and plow the land, you need high levels of testosterone. Maybe not as high as hunters, but you need high levels of testosterone. Now, if you're a computer programmer and you sit behind a computer and you have a laptop on your lap all day, your body is smart. Your body is not going to make something. It's not going to expend energy to do something you don't need to do. And so your body's like, well, I'm not getting attacked by buffalo and I'm not plowing the field, so I don't need to make that much testosterone. For my job, a testosterone of 400 is probably just fine. And so that's what your body does. And so, but when you have a testosterone of 400, you're not chasing girls like you should. You're not building muscle in the gym like you should.
Yeah.
And so when you look as a society versus 50 years ago, as a society, our testosterone levels are down 30%. And for me, the reason they're down 30% is because your body's like, I don't need to make testosterone. Now, obesity, the difference between testosterone and estrogen, even though we think, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, is a single hydrogen atom. Right, so it's a 27 carbon chain molecule, but the only difference between testosterone and estrogen is one hydrogen, the smallest atomic particle there is. And so it's easy for your body to flip testosterone into estrogen, and your body does that in the fat. So if you have a lot of fat, you're going to make more estrogen, which is why men get man boobs, and your testosterone is going to be low. So Peter's in some respects he's right, but I think the bigger picture is the lack of physical activity.
Yeah, sorry, and I think maybe I left that out. I think that's what he was getting at. Was like, people aren't. Yeah. They're not doing.
Yeah, I mean, he wrote a great book. His book is definitely more technical than my book. My book covers the same material and a whole lot more, but it does it in a very practical advice way, for men. That's much more actionable than
His book Outlive.
scientific. Yeah.
I didn't read it, so I'm not too sure, but yeah. Man, awesome stuff, Dr. Judson Brandeis. Talk to us just where people can connect with you if they want to learn about all the things that you're up to. How can they connect with you and your projects? Are you on Instagram? Where are you at? Where are you living these days on social media?
Yeah,
Or if they just want to go to the website.
Yeah, just if you're interested in a natural, effective, and safe penile enhancement procedure, go to p-long.com. p-long.com. If you're
Was
interested,
that hard to get that domain, by the way?
No, it wasn't.
Okay, good.
Yeah. That's usually the first thing I do when I have a project is I come up with a name and I find a website.
Smart man.
And then if you're interested in the Affirm nitric oxide boosting supplement, go to Affirm Science, AFFIRM Science.com. If you're interested in my book, The 21st Century Man, it's the 21st Century Man, all written out in letters.com. If you're interested in seeing me as a patient, I'm in Northern California, but I get people flying in from all around the country and sometimes even the world to see me. Just go to brandeismd.com, brandeismd.com. Let's see, I have a YouTube site that I put a bunch of videos up on. I have an Instagram that I have some people post for me because I'm not really good at social media. And yeah, I think that's about it. That's enough.
Amazing. Yeah, Dr. Judson Brandeis, thanks for being on the show, brother. I appreciate you so much.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.